A powerful, curiosity-driven opening that immediately creates emotional tension and mystery. The receipt lay flat on the counter, the ink still fresh. Tip: $0.00. The waitress swallowed hard, forcing a smile as the man stood to leave. He was a billionaire, everyone knew that. What she didn't know was that something hidden beneath his plate was about to change her life forever. Morning light filtered through the diner's wide windows, catching dust in the air and glinting off chrome edges worn smooth by decades of use. Coffee machines hissed, plates clinked, and voices overlapped in the familiar rhythm of a place that never really slept. For most customers, it was just breakfast. For Lily, it was survival. She balanced a heavy tray on one arm while holding her toddler, Noah, against her hip, his small fingers clutching her apron. Daycare was too expensive, and her sitter had canceled again. Missing a shift wasn't an option. Rent was due. Diapers were running low. Tips meant groceries. Lily had learned to smile no matter how tired she felt. She smiled through aching feet, through judgmental glances, through whispered comments about bringing a child to work. She smiled because smiling paid better than honesty. Every table carried a quiet hope. Maybe this one would tip well. Maybe this one would be kind. She had no safety net, no wealthy family, no second chances waiting at home. Just this diner, this uniform, and the fragile belief that hard work would eventually be enough. That morning, something felt different, as if the diner was holding its breath. The bell above the diner door chimed softly, but the man who stepped inside changed the room instantly. Conversations lowered. Forks paused midair. He wore a tailored, gray suit that didn't belong among vinyl booths and laminated menus, and he moved with the quiet confidence of someone used to being obeyed without asking. Lily noticed the way other customers glanced up, then looked away. Wealth has a presence. It doesn't announce itself loudly. It settles, heavy and undeniable. The man chose a booth near the window and sat without removing his coat, his posture straight, his expression unreadable. Lily approached with a menu, her son shifting on her hip. "Good morning," she said gently. "Can I start you with coffee?" The man's eyes flicked briefly to the child, then back to the table. "Black," he said. One word. Flat. No smile. As she poured the coffee, Lily sensed the distance around him, like an invisible wall. He studied the menu carefully, asking no questions, making no small talk. When he ordered, it was precise. Efficient. Pancakes. Bacon. Orange juice. Other servers whispered near the counter. Someone murmured his name. A billionaire. One of the richest men in the state. Lily felt a tight, knot form in her stomach. Wealthy customers were unpredictable, some generous, others cruel in quiet ways. She checked on him twice as he ate. Each time, he nodded without looking up. No complaints. No praise. Just silence. He finished slowly, folded his napkin with care, and placed it neatly beside his plate. Lily told herself not to expect anything. Expectation only led to disappointment. Still, as she printed the check, she whispered a small prayer that this man, who had everything, might remember what it was like to need a little kindness. The man stood, smoothing his jacket as if nothing unusual had happened. He placed the receipt face down on the table and walked toward the door without a backward glance. The bell chimed again, and just like that, he was gone. Lily waited a moment before approaching the booth. Her hands trembled as she reached for the receipt, already bracing herself. She flipped it over. Asterisk asterisk tip, $0.00. Asterisk asterisk her breath caught. For a split second, the diner noise faded, replaced by the sharp thud of her own heartbeat. No mistake. No crossed-out numbers. Just zero. Clean and deliberate. Heat crept up her neck as she imagined the math in her head. Gas she wouldn't buy. Groceries she'd stretch. A bill she'd delay again. She felt foolish for hoping. Foolish for praying. A couple at the counter glanced over. A man near the window shook his head. Someone whispered, "Figures." Lily forced her face into a neutral mask, the kind she'd perfected over years of disappointment. She tucked the receipt into her apron like it didn't matter. But it did. She cleared the table slowly, stacking plates, avoiding her reflection in the chrome trim. Shame pressed down on her chest, heavy and familiar. It wasn't just the money. It was the message that her effort, her exhaustion, her quiet dignity were worth nothing. Noah stirred in her arms, sensing her tension. Lily kissed his hair, blinking back tears she refused to shed in public. She reminded herself she'd survived worse days than this. As she reached for the last plate, she whispered to herself, barely audible, "Just get through today." She had no idea she was seconds away from discovering that the story wasn't over yet. Lily lifted the final plate, ready to wipe the table and move on, when something caught her eye. A corner of thick paper peeked out from beneath the dish, pressed flat against the vinyl seat as if intentionally hidden. She paused, her heart skipping for reasons she couldn't explain. Carefully, she slid the plate aside. There, taped neatly to the underside, was a cream-colored envelope. Her name was written on the front in clean, deliberate handwriting. Lily. Her breath came shallow. She glanced around, half expecting someone to be watching, but the diner had already returned to its usual rhythm. No one noticed her frozen beside the booth. With trembling fingers, she peeled the envelope free and opened it. Inside was a folded note and a cashier's check. Her eyes dropped to the number first, and her knees nearly buckled. The amount was more than she made in months, enough to clear her overdue rent, fix her broken car, and put money aside for Noah's future. Enough to breathe again. Tears blurred the words on the note as she read it slowly. Asterisk. I wanted to see how you would react when no one was watching and nothing was promised. You treated me with patience, dignity, and kindness anyway. The tip wasn't on the table because this isn't charity. It's respect. Asterisk. Her hand flew to her mouth. A quiet sob escaped before she could stop. The bottom of the note was a final line, written softer, almost personal. Asterisk. Never let this world convince you that your worth is measured by what others leave behind. Asterisk. Lily sank into the booth, clutching the envelope to her chest as emotion washed over her in waves. Relief, disbelief, gratitude so deep it hurt. For the first time in years, the future didn't feel like a wall she was about to crash into. Across the room, the older cook watched silently, understanding dawning on his face. The waitress at the counter smiled gently, as if she sensed something had shifted. Lily wiped her tears, looked down at her sleeping son, and laughed quietly through the sobs. What began as humiliation had transformed into something extraordinary. The billionaire had already left the building, but he'd left behind more than money. He'd left proof that unseen kindness still mattered. In the weeks that followed, Lily's life didn't turn magical overnight, but it finally turned possible. Rent was paid. The car started again. Noah's laugh came easier because his mother's fear no longer filled the room. She never saw the billionaire again. He didn't leave a name or ask for thanks. He simply disappeared back into a world that already had too much, leaving behind hope where it was needed most. Lily kept the note folded in her wallet, a reminder on hard days that dignity matters, even when no one seems to notice. She carried herself differently now, not richer, but stronger, and the diner changed too. People tipped a little more, smiled a little longer. Kindness, once witnessed, has a way of spreading. If this story moved you, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. And ask yourself, when no one is watching, what person you choose to be.